So last night we were hearing about the journey from the gray place to the place of great light in that incredible bus full of, you thought your bus trips were tough. Your bus mates were tough. So tonight, chapter 3. A cliff had loomed up ahead. One sec here. Yeah, that's better. A cliff had loomed up ahead. It sank vertically beneath us so far that I could not see the bottom, and it was dark and smooth. We were mounting all the time. At last, the top of the cliff became visible like a thin line of emerald green, stretched tight as a fiddle string. And presently, we glided over that top. We were flying above a level, grassy country through which there was running a wide river. We were losing height now. Some of the tallest treetops were only 20 feet below us. And then suddenly, we were at rest. Everyone had jumped up. Curses, taunts, blows, a filth of vituperation came to my ears as my fellow passengers struggled to get out. A moment later, and they had all succeeded. I was alone in the bus, and through the open door there came to me in the fresh stillness the singing of a lark. I got out. The light and coolness that drenched me were like those of summer morning, early morning, a minute or two before the sunrise, only that there was a certain difference. I had the sense of being in a larger space, perhaps even a larger sort of space than I had ever known before, as if the sky were further off and the extent of the green plain wider that they could be on this little ball of earth. I had got out in some sense, which made the solar system itself seem an indoor affair. And it gave me a feeling of freedom, but also of exposure, possibly of danger, which continued to accompany me through all that followed. It is the impossibility of communicating that feeling or even of inducing you to remember it as I proceed, which makes me despair of conveying the real quality of what I saw and heard. At first, of course, my attention was caught by my fellow passengers who were still grouped about in the neighborhood of the omnibus. Though beginning, some of them, to walk forward into the landscape with hesitating steps, I gasped when I saw them. Now that they were in the light, they were transparent, fully transparent when they stood between me and it, smudgy and imperfectly opaque when they stood in the shadow of some tree. They were, in fact, ghosts, man-shaped stains on the brightness of that air. One could attend to them or ignore them at will, as you do with the dirt or a window pane. I noticed that the grass did not bend under their feet. Even the dewdrops were not disturbed. And then, some readjustment of the mind or some focusing of my eyes took place, and I saw the whole phenomenon the other way round. The men were as they had always been, as all the men I had known had been, perhaps. It was the light, the grass, the trees that were made different, made of some different substance, so much solider than things in our country that men were ghosts by comparison. Moved by a sudden thought, I bent down and tried to pluck a daisy which was growing at my feet. The stalk wouldn't break. I tried to twist it, but it wouldn't twist. I tugged till the sweat stood out on my forehead, and I had lost most of the skin off my hands. The little flower was hard, not like wood or even like iron, but like diamond. There was a leaf, a young, tender beech leaf, lying in the grass beside it. I tried to pick the leaf up, my heart almost cracking with the effort, and I believe I did just raise it. But I had to let it go at once. It was heavier than a sack of coal. And as I stood, recovering my breath, with great gasps and looking down at the daisy, I noticed that I could see the grass not only between my feet, but through them. I also was a phantom. Who will give me words to express the terror of that discovery? Golly, I thought, I'm in for it this time. I don't like it! I don't like it! Screamed a voice. It gives me the pip! One of the ghosts had darted past me back into the bus. She never came out of it again, as far as I know. And the others remained uncertain. Hi, mister, said the big man, addressing the driver. When have we got to be back? You need never come back, unless you want to, he replied. Stay as long as you please. There was an awkward pause. This is simply ridiculous, said a voice in my ear. One of the quieter and more respectable ghosts had sidled up to me. There must be some mismanagement, he continued. What's the sense of allowing all that riffraff to float about here all day? Look at them. They're not enjoying it. They'd be far happier at home. They don't even know what to do. I don't know very well myself, said I. What does one do? Oh, me? I shall be met in a moment or two. I'm expected. I'm not bothering about that. But it's rather unpleasant on one's first day to have the whole place crowded out with trippers. Damn it, one's chief object in coming here was to avoid them all. He drifted away from me, and I began to look about. In spite of his reference to a crowd, the solitude was so vast that I could hardly notice the knot of phantoms in the foreground. Greenness and light had almost swallowed them up. But, very far away, I could see what might be either a great bank of cloud or a range of mountains. And sometimes I could make it out in steep forests, far withdrawing valleys, and even mountain cities perched on inaccessible summits. At other times it became indistinct. The height was so enormous that my waking sight could not have taken it in. Not such an object at all. Light brooded on top of it all. Slanting down thence, it made long shadows behind every tree on the plain. And there was no change and no progression as the hours passed. The promise or the threat of sunrise rested immovably up there. And long after that I saw people coming to meet us because they were bright. I saw them while they were still very far distant, and at first I did not know that they were people at all. Mile after mile they drew nearer. The earth shook under their tread as their strong feet sank into the wet turf. A tiny haze and a sweet smell went up where they had crushed the grass and scattered the dew. Some were naked, some were robed. But the naked ones did not seem less adorned, and the robes did not disguise in those who wore them the massive grandeur of muscle and the radiant smoothness of flesh. Some were bearded, but no one in that company struck me as being of any particular age. One gets glimpses, even in our country, of that which is ageless. Heavy thought in the face of an infant, and frolic childhood in that of a very old man. Here, it was all like that. They came on steadily. I did not entirely like it. Two of the ghosts screamed and ran for the bus. The rest of us huddled closer to one another. to be continued in chapter 4. Good night, friends.